My mom says I've changed because I don't want to watch sports with her anymore, but it's really because she can't stop making racist comments about the athletes. Posted by u/Thrower Turbulentican. As the title says, my parents told me that they weren't gonna split tuition anymore following an argument we recently had, and the argument involves something dating back years. We're a big sports family, and my younger brothers play sports too, both play baseball in high school but dabbled in others. I played tennis at my community college, before transferring after my associates, and have since I was young, and I'm grateful to my parents for paying for our sports despite our differences. I still live with them, and I pay rent. I work 2 part-time jobs and split tuition until recently after an argument about something dating back years. This week and last week is the US Open of tennis, and we've watched tennis together growing up. Over the years, I've done so less and less, after realizing my mom's disdain for certain players went deeper than your average rivalry dislikes. For example, my mom despises Serena Williams, and she felt that way since I was young. Whenever she plays, she roots against her. And when I'd ask why, she'd point to her outbursts against Naomi Osaka and Kim Clijsters, saying she has no class and was a bad role model for black athletes. And while I understand some of the criticism against her outbursts, I disagree with her other arguments, such as her saying that she doesn't act womanly, and is probably on steroids, and numerous comments about her weight that just seem hateful. I understand hating a certain player or team in a rivalry sense, but that's not what she did with Serena. She personally prefers Venus or Coco Gauff and Madison Keys in recent years. But she's had similar opinions about other athletes not in tennis, which seemed to form a pattern. During the 2020 Summer Olympics, she said she disagreed with people who commended Simone Biles for her choice to withdraw from an event due to having twisties, which could have endangered her health. She called her withdrawal weak, and that commending it was harmful to teach other girls to quit and use mental health as an excuse to do so. She said that mental health was thrown around too much as an excuse to get out of facing challenges, and that's just one of her many takes I disagree with. She's had other opinions, including some about the 2024 Olympic boxing match, where Karini withdrew from her match, and I refused to talk politics with her too. The reason my parents decided to stop splitting tuition was because of an argument that happened last week. My parents asked me if I wanted to attend the US Open as they were purchasing grounds passes, and as I've done in recent years, I declined. That led to them asking why I don't do as much with the family anymore, like watching sports or going to sporting events or eating in my room if they are, and they've often harped on me for not acting like part of the family, as I've stopped watching things with them over the years. I decided to speak my mind instead of coming up with an excuse, and told them that I was tired of watching sports together because it had become annoying. I hate how Mom says certain athletes are good or bad role models for black people while bringing her political bias into it. She hasn't liked LeBron since he spoke at a Hillary Clinton campaign stop years ago, and it took the joy out of watching sports together years ago. I don't want to be around her constant hate attacks while watching a game. So because I didn't want to act like part of the family, they said that this upcoming semester would be the last that they split tuition. It's already paid, so I'm on my own going forward. I believe I can find more work hours to cover next semester myself, but I wanted to ask if it would be better to take a break after this semester to try and move out and return to school later. I think it'd be less stressful, but I could use other opinions because I'm near the end of my rope with them, and they've held firm on their position since I refused to go to the Open. Update 1. Almost all of the advice I received was to stay in school, and I'd love nothing more. A break can turn into years quickly, from what I've heard, and some have suggested using this semester. That's already paid for as a time to find bearings for the next semester. I took advantage of my school's free counseling offerings and booked a session with a counselor to discuss my options. We discussed financial aid, payment plans, and campus jobs, in addition to finding a full-time job off campus. I have 2 part-time jobs, but hours are inconsistent, and they don't pay great. Even if I take less classes per semester, I believe staying in school would be the best option. And I have another session with my counselor coming up where she said we can talk more about it. I also told her about the situation that led to my parents changing their mind on tuition, and saying what I felt out loud helped me find some additional realization. According to my counselor, I internalized a lot of it because my parents weren't receptive. So talking to her was therapeutic in a way. With my family always being a big sports family, hosting Super Bowl parties, going to many games, siblings and I playing sports, sports was the thing we bonded over for all of my life. Heck, it was a foregone conclusion that we skipped church on Super Bowl Sunday to prepare for guests, and on Championship Sunday for the gentlemen's finals at Wimbledon in the morning. But somewhere along the way, it became less fun to watch sports with them due to the things I mentioned in my previous post. Mom, more so than Dad, but he has his moments and agrees with her stances, began infusing her political beliefs into sports and other areas, and it tainted the very thing our family bonded over. Sports is often an escape from work and stress, something that people on both sides of the political aisle can come together over and cheer for the same team at a stadium or party. Ignorant bliss plays a role in that, of course. But as humans, I believe it's important to come together to find community, and sports is one of the most common ways to do so despite our differences. But when those differences caused my parents to decide to walk back their agreement to split tuition, it hurt because it felt like I was being punished for my different opinion. I love sports because it brings people together in a world where it's so hard to do so genuinely. At one of my retail jobs, our managers have huddles with team members with cheesy slogans, monthly themes, and team-building activities that coworkers laugh at once the huddle ends and criticize for being fake enthusiasm. But sports unifies people like nothing else, and I'm sad that watching sports became tainted over the years at home. The only time sports isn't tainted in my family is when we go to my siblings' games to cheer them on, and that's because no politics are involved. Every family has their own thing, and I've seen many at church when I used to go. From musical families at church who have members in the choir or orchestra to missionary families who travel together. Every family has things they bond over, and sports began to change in our family because it became less fun to watch with Mom and Dad. I'd love to move out sooner rather than later, but I'm weighing all of my options. Staying in school remains the priority, and I hope I'm able to find more work soon. I'm glad to have found a nice counselor who has options such as payment plans though. The payment plan is the one I'm hoping to utilize. Update 2. So, I decided to take next semester off, after finishing my current fall semester because of a recent conversation with my parents, but I'll get to that in a second. I somehow forgot to clarify that my mom is black, which would have provided a lot more perspective on my first post. A lot of people DM me to ask which made me realize. So with that out of the way, I'll get to what happened. At the suggestion of my counselor, I decided to reach out to a relative for support to have someone on my side. And that relative was understanding and offered to help with tuition since my parents wouldn't. But they also decided to call my parents, without telling me to give them a piece of their mind, and that led to another argument. My parents didn't appreciate me going outside of the family, and said it furthered their point about how I wasn't acting like a part of the family. So, they suggested that I start looking for my own place by the end of the semester, because I was disrespectful. I told that same relative about what happened, despite how she called my parents, because I'll still need her help to move out by the end of the semester. But I'll be taking a break from school, after this semester ends, to try and find full-time work in hopes of having a place to myself sooner rather than later. I'm just upset about how my parents are at this point over such stupid things that are really meaningless. I fully understand respect that I'm living in my parents' home and have no right to tell them what to do in it. But when I decide to not go to the US Open or other sporting events in the past or sit at the dinner table when they're watching clips or opinionist podcasts about their favorite president, I'm apparently being disrespectful. I always sit down at the dinner table when we're not watching politics and Mom's not on one of her tangents. But there used to be a rule in our home about not watching TV at the dinner table because that's where we'd talk about each other's day. I used to complain about it when I was younger, but now I miss that rule. It just sucks that choosing not to engage in political conversations is somehow being disrespectful and not a part of the family, but I'm not surprised to be fully honest. I've kinda gotten used to leaving the room or staying silent whenever Mom goes off on her tangents in recent years. The NBA BLM jerseys court was 5 years ago in 2020, and I refused to entertain her opinion then when I was 16. Her racial remarks towards Serena goes back over a decade. And while I don't support Serena's tantrums and threats she made towards an official once, it's no excuse to make such remarks towards her. Simone Biles faced similar remarks from my mom more recently during the 2020 Olympics, along with LeBron over the years too. So when I've chosen not to watch sports with her for years now, I suppose she finally reached her breaking point because being silent is not being part of the family. If anything, I'm curious to see what life would be without having to tiptoe around them 24/7. So I've already started applying for full-time work because being around them is emotionally draining.
I came home early to surprise my girlfriend, only to find her with another woman. Then she ran after me half-naked saying I ruined everything. Posted by U Jackson 20133. I saw people get a lot of responses on here, so I thought I'd create an account to see what advice anyone can offer. Sorry for the essay. Okay, a little backstory. I'm 22 and my girlfriend, we'll call her Jess, and I have been in a relationship for nearly 18 months. She's very attractive, and in all honesty, I wouldn't say I'm a lost cause, but I'm certainly punching a bit. Anyway, last week, we were at an exhibition function for our shared university course. It was a fairly normal evening up, until I saw her talking to this girl from the other side of the hall. Nothing unusual, I just didn't recognize her. However, when they turned around, I noticed the mystery girl had her hand seriously low on my girlfriend's back. I didn't think much of it at the time, but they were completely inseparable for the entire evening. The next week or so, we were unusually distant from each other. I wanted to make sure nothing was wrong before I went away. I was going to Bristol for the weekend, and I didn't want to leave things on bad terms before I left. But she was having none of it, just being really blunt and such. So I left for my parents, who were giving me a lift to Bristol, but when I got there, Mum said the old man was ill, and we wouldn't be going, at least not today. So, already angry that she didn't tell me this over the phone, I drove back to ours in a foul mood, and that's when I caught her. The front door was off the latch for some reason, so I didn't need my key. I came in the door normally, but kind of stopped when I heard what sounded like Jess giggling. We live on a ground floor flat, so there is no floorboards to creak. As I got closer, I could hear someone, clearly a female, sound quite breathy like panting. At this point, I thought Jess might have been having some alone time or something, so I was about to make myself known until I looked down and saw a pair of worn pink all-stars that I knew were not Jess's. At this point, confusion was starting to build, and as I turned the corner, our bedroom door was wide open, and there was the girl from the gallery in my fucking bed, and someone was beneath the covers. What the fuck is this? I believe was my first reaction. Gallery girl just stared at me shocked, yet as I called to Jess, something strange happened. Absolutely nothing at all. She just stayed under the covers and didn't move. For what felt like the longest time, I just stood there open-mouthed, until I finally shook myself into action and started to leave. Next thing I know, she comes flying out of the door into the hallway of the block, wearing just a pair of knickers and a vest for God's sake, trying to somehow make this out to be my fault. I literally didn't know what to say. She's freaking out, and all I could come up with was, "You're not wearing anything. Get back inside. We'll discuss this later." When I got back to the car, the belated rage began to set in. I was angry she cheated, angry she blamed it on me, and angry I didn't say something else. Honestly, it's the most ridiculous, absurd scenario I've ever found myself in, and perhaps that's why I wasn't so angry initially, but now I'm wondering what to do. I didn't know she was into girls, she never mentioned anything like that, and now she's cheated on me with one and we're renting a flat together. Is this just her experimenting? Can we recover? Has anyone been in this situation before? I am at my wit's end here, people. Relevant comments. Commenter 1, drop her like it's hot. She's trying to justify being a shitty person that ain't yo fault. Op response. That's all I can think of, but there's many other things to consider in all fairness. Commenter 2. Look, obviously no one here is gonna know the whole story and every detail. Based on information given, that's probably the best course. Unless you're trying to justify her cheating and looking for validation that it is actually your fault so you can feel good about staying with her. Op response. I don't mean consider from her side. She done the dirty, I know that. But we've literally just committed to a 6-month rental. She's texting all the time saying she's sorry. I just don't want to be too rash here. Commenter 3. Cheating is cheating. Doesn't matter if it's a man or woman, and even if it was experimenting, I'm not gonna accept my so to be comfortable with her coming home to me fucking another dude's butthole because I was curious. Commenter 4. Can you go into a little more detail about her absurd reaction? You teased it in the title, but trying to somehow make this out to be my fault didn't really deliver. Op response. Well, partly absurd because she was wearing basically nothing out in the hallway where strangers from other flats come and go, and she's historically quite a modest person. Worse though because she said something along the lines of, "You said you were leaving for Bristol," which absolutely flabbergasted me. Then the nail in the coffin was, "What, so I get all the blame for this?" To which I had no appropriate response other than absolute fury, so I took the decision to calmly tell her to go back inside, and I left. Edit, I've read nearly all of these comments now, and honestly, you guys are pretty much spot on, I'm afraid. I can't go back to her and keep any shred of dignity, especially after I found Gallery Girl on FB earlier and messaged her. She admitted it's been going on a while and is desperate for me not to tell anyone. As much as it would be a shitty move, I'm seriously considering outing them both. Knowing her friends, the last thing Jess would want is for them to think she's into girls. I know it's petty, but I am just so mad right now. Commenter 5. In regards to your edit about outing her, I understand that you already said you wouldn't, but please consider before telling anyone anything, no matter the circumstances. Outing her could put her in physical danger. With her family, her friends, random people on the street. It's not just a shitty thing to do, it's literally bargaining her physical health, living situation, friendships, relationships, etc. She did a horrible thing, but nothing calls for that. Update 2 days later. Had a lot of back and forth text with the ex. She stopped saying she's sorry, instead trying to say that I didn't see what I thought I saw, which is hilarious. Here's the kicker though, she told one of our mutual friends, a girl, that we split up because she had a guy round and I hit the roof and overreacted. Wasn't gonna divulge the full story to anyone, but after I heard she had said that I told this mutual friend the whole story. Mutual friend didn't believe me, so I showed her the messages between me and gallery girl. Now her friends at least know she's a cheat and a liar. Also, I told the landlord I'd like to take myself off the lease because this has happened, and he's looking into it. Hopefully that can be resolved in the next week or so. I've also been getting spammed with texts from Jess today saying I'm heartless and I've ruined her life. Oh, the irony. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. While I sit here on my balcony and smoke my last cigarette for today, nothing better has ever satisfied this loneliness of mine than reminiscing about a post I read earlier today by Op, and the result being posted with sweet vengeance. Bless you, stranger, you've made my heart a little lighter. Op response. Obviously, it's a shitty situation all round, and honestly I was willing to pretty much let it all slide after I cooled off from yesterday, but lying about me to our mutual friends. Nah, commenter 2. She stopped saying she's sorry, instead trying to say that I didn't see what I thought I saw. How dumb does she think you are? What was she expecting you to say? Oh, you're right, I didn't see you in bed with someone else after all, I was just hallucinating. Op response. I think she's just in full damage control mode now, and quite frankly isn't making a lot of sense. She'd rather shift the blame back onto me than confront the fact that her slightly homophobic friends now know she's into girls, so she's panicking. I broke up with my girlfriend on Christmas because her family treated me like a circus act when they found out I'm indigenous, and she just sat there laughing. Posted by u/tr0w, it away. Okay, I'm of indigenous descent. My girlfriend is white, so is her family except for her brother-in-law, he's African American. This is my first Christmas with them, and my girlfriend been together a year and a half. There's that bit of backstory. So I went to girlfriend's family gathering for Christmas yesterday, and while there it comes up that I dance and sing at powwows. Conversation starts off innocent enough, but I get that feeling that people of color get sometimes when these sorts of talks come up. And I know something offensive is about to go down. There are about 15 grown people there and 4 children, so I'm fielding questions and statements like, do the words mean anything or is it just gibberish? I can hop too. How much Indian are you? Do you get money from the casino? Anyways, my girlfriend's uncle tells me to do an Indian chant and wants me to dance too. I said no, then girlfriend dad chimes in with a come on, do one. And then like 6 others start asking. I say it's just weird and I don't want to. My girlfriend brother-in-law is staring at the floor, glancing over at me with a look that says, I'm so sorry. And after about 5 minutes of this shit, her uncle tells his kids to dance and sing like an Indian. So then there's 2 white children making Indian noises and jumping around the room. Girlfriend is laughing like what? And everyone is cheering for them. Me and the brother-in-law are staring in complete fucking disbelief. Then they start in on me again. They can do it. Show them how it's actually done. I've had enough. I stand up and tell them I'm not their fucking show monkey, and they need to be more respectful of other cultures. Girlfiend just sits there. She's been to at least 10 of my performances and claims to love my culture, and she not once defended me or it here. I look over at her and ask her to help me out here, and she sheepishly says, they're just kidding around. And I say, okay. Well, I'm not kidding around when I say we're done. Her dad and uncle start saying something, and her sister says that that's not fair. And I start walking to the bedroom to get my shit to leave. While doing so, I forget that she drove her car, and I'm without transport to get 4 hours to my apartment. So I suck it up, go back out there while girlfriend's grandma is telling everyone off. She was also not happy about what transpired. She's a goddamn saint of a woman. I say to girlfiend, you need to take me home. Now. Please, she's crying naturally, and her dad says, find your own way, you fucking bastard. And brother-in-law stands up and says, I'll do it. His wife tells him not to, and he says something like this was all too much, and he can't just leave me stranded. So I get into his truck and I'm shaking. I'm still so fucking pissed off. And he gets in, starts it up, and we're off. About 15 minutes down the road, he looks at me and says, bro, what the fuck? And we start laughing. He tells me about what happened his first time meeting that family and all the stories thereafter. And honestly, I think I dodged a bullet. So, today I've been getting messages from my friends and mutual friends of my ex about how I'm an asshole for breaking up with her in front of her family, cussing them all out, and demanding they fly me back home. Apparently she's been feeding them all an extremely exaggerated event. One asked me if keyed her dad's car before I left. Like, what the fuck? Anyways, I've been feeling kind of bad for dumping her in front of her family like. My adrenaline is still active and my nerves are all on end. Is what I did too much? How do I get my friends to believe that what I did was justified? I know she probably didn't mean what she did, but still. She's also been texting me and trying to smooth things over, but I honestly don't see it. Especially after lying to our friends. But also part of me really does miss her. We've been holed up at my place for 11 months, getting to know almost everything about each other. I'm confused. I know me and most of her family are done even if we work this shit out. It's a weird thing to love someone and then suddenly you have to tell yourself you don't anymore. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. Fuck that noise, her family is racist and she didn't stand up for you. You dodged a bullet. You don't owe anyone a performance, and I'd break up with someone treating me like a dancing monkey too. The fact she doubled down and started lying about what happened shows you how much love and respect she has for you. Move on with a clear conscience and don't look back. You deserve someone who will stand up for you. Sending you love. Update. So first off, thank you for the awards and stuff, the kind words, and mostly the advice. Second, I turned off my phone after my original post, and immediately got hammered, passed out, woke up at 2 p.m. the next day, ordered some waffles, and built my dog a bed that she won't sleep in, whatever, I guess. Then got into my car, went to Best Buy to buy a PS5. They didn't have any naturally, bought a new TV instead, got a Switch and some games, and had been living the best fucking life I could possibly be living. No phone, no internet, except for the gaming, no social media, and honestly, no heartache. Finally turned my phone back on today to an absolute onslaught of texts, missed calls, voicemails, Facebook messages, Twitter messages, and you name it. There was a message from my brother even. I did respond to him to let him know I was fine and to tell our family not to worry, I was just dealing in my own way. The juicy bits are as follows. X is terribly sorry and she doesn't condone what they did, but it's her family and she didn't mean to laugh or whatever. She keeps trying to bait me to respond with things like, what about our history? We talked about having a family, basically trying everything. I will admit I did respond once and I said politely, please leave me alone. What we had was great. I enjoyed every bit of it as much as you claim you had. But that was absolutely horrific to watch, and watching you laugh at it was heartbreaking and abhorrent. We have no chance after what I experienced. Hopefully that didn't paste in a weird format. But she has since messaged me a few times more than I think she finally realized it's over. Her dad or uncle, I'm honestly not sure who texted me to apologize for what happened. Never responded. Probably won't. He grandma added me on Facebook, that goddamn sweetheart. She's like 80, and posted the night this all happened that she has never been so disappointed on a holiday. Then has been spamming the newsfeed with indigenous history stuff, and made a big long post on the anniversary of Wounded Knee that was absolutely beautiful. I am talking with her about her granddaughter. She thinks I should give her another shot. I told her it's honestly not something I want to deal with right now. She gets it though. Our friends group has basically been split down the middle. Half still think I should have waited until Christmas was over to break up, the other half just don't really give a shit anymore, I guess. There are a few friends I did explain what happened, and that went about as smooth as shitting bricks sideways. They refused to believe she would just sit there and do nothing, despite screenshots of her literally saying she was sorry for laughing and not doing anything. So they're gone, done with them. Some of my closer pals told me they never trusted her and I asked why, and they said it's because she called Frybread lefts one time. Lol. Other than that, our friends are all filled in from what happened on both sides, whatever they decide. It is what it is. The real hero of the situation, the brother-in-law, I showed him the post and he had a few things to say. One, he said fuck the guy who called him the N-word or something. Yeah, fuck that guy. Two, he says that him and his wife are actually in the middle of a divorce, but were trying to reconcile before going through with it because they have a child together. Three, he says thanks for all the MVP acknowledgement, and he says he couldn't just leave a brother hanging like that. I learned that he's a quarter Choctaw. And last, he says he hates racism as much as the next decent person, but love is a crazy, beautiful, fickle, wonderful bitch. What are you gonna do? I think that about covers most of everything. I don't expect there will be anything to update from here. Again, thanks for the kindness. You are all amazing except that one guy.
My soon-to-be sister-in-law told my brother she couldn't get pregnant, then somehow had 2 kids, and now expects me to babysit her relatives during the wedding. Now she's calling me heartless. Posted by you aggressive bet 1198. So, I 42F have been asked to host part of my brother's, Brian, 38M fiancé's family for their upcoming wedding next weekend. We'll call the fiancée Diane. She's 39F, they've been together almost 5 years. First of all, my brother isn't the sharpest tool in the shed. He has fallen for lie after lie, and still doesn't really see the lies and years of her fake persona and manipulative behavior. For example, she lied that she couldn't get pregnant in the beginning, literally said her uterus has been removed. Then why are you having a period, psycho? They now have a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old. Still, these were miracle pregnancies. She told him they were ectopic tube pregnancies. Apparently my bro cannot use Google, nor does he believe countless family and friends who told him this was impossible to give birth from an ectopic pregnancy. He works a lot and never was able to get to an appointment, and even if he did, he likely wouldn't have asked the doc. In the end, he said he loves her and it doesn't matter. Okay, dude. Fine. We'll be happy for you and our new nephews. Needless to say, I am and much of our family are not fond of Diane. She is a user of the highest order, disposing of people like Kleenex once their usefulness has expired. I've watched her manipulate my parents, my bro, my sister, her own friends and family. It's just been gross when I've had to deal with her at family holiday events, weddings, funerals. Just you. Now, they are finally getting married next weekend. They've been planning this for about 6 months, as she is a huge Halloween fanatic, but doesn't want to share her anniversary with Halloween Day. It's not a huge event, about 50 people. Mostly our family and some of hers. Her brother, his wife, and 4 kids cannot afford a hotel. This is something Diane has known about for months, but just asked me last night if they could stay with us since I have the biggest house. This is an unreasonable and undesirable situation for me for a multitude of reasons. One, I live almost 3 hours away from the venue, and the town they will be hosting events such as final dress fittings, rehearsal dinner, bachelor and bachelorette parties. That will be a lot of back and forth for them, especially since my kids and I are only invited to the wedding and reception. They couldn't even carpool with us because we aren't attending those events. 2. Kids under 13 are not invited to the wedding or reception, assuming all the adults, and my teens, will be at the wedding. Who's going to watch their kids, and where will they go during the festivities? My kids are attending their uncle's wedding. We're going to support my brother and see our other family members. So, if the plan is to see if I or one my kiddos will do it, the answer is no. 3. I have met these people once in passing. I know nothing about them at all, and if they're anything like their sister, well, I don't want to. Aside from that, there's the whole trusting strangers in my home with my kids, as well. Nope. 4. Why exactly can't they stay with Diane's parents? They have a 3-bedroom home and live alone. Why can't they host their son and grandchildren? Answer. He and his dad don't get along, and since her dad is the only decent person in her family that I have met and liked, that's a red flag for me. I told Diane and my brother that I really am not comfortable with this, and the response was please. It's family. My boyfriend said he would stay with us all weekend if I was uncomfortable having them there alone, and would help out since I will also be expected to properly host, which means cooking for everyone, etc. That's great, and would help with the uncomfortable part, for sure. But even still, aside from the trust issues I have, I am primarily worried about where their kids will be during everything. The response was, we're still figuring that out. After that, I doubled down on the no since I have visions of them saying the 9-year-old could babysit 14 and 5-year-old at my house. My family is 50 and 50 on me being an aider about it, and Diane's family, except her parents, also think I'm being an Ada since it is just one weekend, and I usually host all the holidays and such. They say I am being a snob about it, and I'm out of touch because I cannot appreciate their financial struggles. Am I being an asshole? Update. I have been getting bombarded with calls and texts from Diane and my brother, which I ignored until about an hour ago. I calmly asked, "What's up?" when I answered. I could hear the panic in her voice as she rushed to berate me for being so cruel while she had so much else to deal with. Lady, I work full-time, travel for work, have 2 kids playing high school football, have 2 kids who have part-time jobs, and I am a single mom. I don't exactly have an easy schedule and free time myself. She went on to say that she had been so sure that I would be willing to help, read, babysit her family that no one else wants around. It seems that she already promised them they could stay in the pool house. Let's be clear, the pool house has a bathroom, a large living area, and a tiny kitchenette. It's barely the size of a primary bedroom, let alone big enough for 6 people. It's not some extravagant space. I told her, sorry, but that's not my problem. You should have asked first. I also have the kids and I booked at the hotel because I plan to drink at the wedding, and I'm not driving home after that. How did you plan to get them to my house anyway? Are they renting a car? Who's babysitting? Why can't your parents take the kids if the issue is with your brother? Why would he bring them if he couldn't afford it anyway? This is something seriously poor planning. I fired those questions off at her like bullets out of a gun. She said this was dumped on her, and she was stuck. I said, so you thought I was the best choice to dump this on to take it off your plate? We aren't exactly close, Diane. Please stop asking me. I'm not going to do this for you. My answer is final. Sorry, not sorry. We're uninvited to the wedding. Face, 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 face. I don't believe my brother will allow that. But if it comes to pass that we don't get to go, good riddance. Update 2, 1 week later. So, my sister-in-law called me and invited us back to the wedding today. Wedding is Saturday. I could tell it was a very forced action on her part. Not an ounce of sincerity in her apology, nor any mention that she was in the wrong save for overreacting in the heat of the moment. I had already spoken to my kiddos about what they wanted to do, and their thoughts on it if they were to reinvite us, and they were of the same mindset as me, fuck that. So we made other plans for the weekend. I passed this along to her, and she had the audacity to say, "Oh well, then you guys can babysit, right?" I literally laughed and told her to fuck off. She started crying and saying that I never gave her a chance. I've always been so mean to her, and she doesn't know what she's ever done to me. I acknowledged that I never gave her the opportunity to pull the wool over my eyes because I am smarter than her. But I have watched her quietly manipulate almost everyone in my family in some way or another. My brother is angry with her because we're not coming, and it was her responsibility to make it right, and she completely blew it. To be fair, my bro hasn't communicated to me once personally about the incident, and that kinda pisses me off too. Like, you couldn't tell me you don't feel the same and you would like us to come. I've got my dad saying, of course he wants you guys there. He is so pissed at Diane. I was tired of men in tech harassing me, so I uploaded a folder of their messages and tagged their real names. Now some of them are threatening me, and HR sent me an email. Posted by you Anon 716154141. I went to college for computer engineering and got a job in the industry afterwards. In college, my internships and my job, I've dealt with sexual harassment, and I've had to get tough with people, telling them to stay the fuck away when I get the first whiff of sketchiness. Every time I've gotten a creepy text or instant message from another student or co-worker, I've screenshotted it and backed it up in Google Drive just in case it escalates. That's helped me a few times, when someone started to follow me around in college, and when someone took things so far at work that I decided to go to HR. I don't report most of the shit though. I don't want it to look bad like I'm always running to HR. Last night, I got really drunk with my friend because I had a day off planned for today. I went home in a kinda bad mood because we'd been talking about how she was going through similar shit at work. I was in a fuck-it-all mood, and I uploaded my whole folder of screenshotted text messages to Facebook and Instagram with the caption, "Phone and inbox of a female computer engineer," and tagged all the men who had sent me messages, whose social media I could find. Some of the highlights were a bunch of married men hitting on me, and me replying, "Dude, you're married," or something along those lines. Some guys asking me out and then taking rejection badly. Some guys who would text me repeatedly even though I just replied, "Don't contact me," other than for work purposes. Sexually explicit messages, or messages commenting on my appearance out of the blue. Overall, just messages from people ignoring my wishes to be left alone. This morning, I woke up to my phone blowing up. I had planned to take a vacation day off work today. A lot of the guys I'd tagged in my social media posts had contacted me demanding or pleading that I remove the posts. Most everyone had untagged themselves. The Facebook post had gotten some attention from my friends, but my 2 Instagram posts, I had to make 2 to fit all the photos, had blown up. I had a lot of new followers, a lot of strangers commenting on my post, mostly supportive. I also had an email from HR at work asking me to meet with them first thing Monday morning. I replied to say that I would. I don't know what to expect there at all. I have not replied to any other messages about my posts. I need some advice. Should I speak to the guys who texted me about the posts? Some are very angry with me because they are married and their wives found out. I'm thinking it's safest to not. Should I leave the posts up or remove them? Or wait to see how things go with HR before I decide? Should I be worried for my safety? I feel a little nervous, but I don't know if I'm overreacting. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. Ask HR what it's about. Can your social media be connected to your identity and job? Op response. My social media has my real name, but I have not mentioned my company or any of my past jobs or internships on their commenter 2. How are all these students and coworkers getting your cell number? I didn't think it was possible to tag someone on Facebook if you weren't friends. Delete the post. Do not speak with the guys. Talk to HR and see where to go from there. Op response. Not all of them contacted me by text. Some sent me messages on various instant messaging platforms I've needed for jobs or college classes. Out of the people who do have my number, a lot were students. It was very common in college to exchange numbers with your group for group projects. And some are employees at my current job, which involves travel, because we do not have work cell phones, and it is easier to keep in touch with personal phones sometimes. You're right about Facebook. I added some people, mostly students and other interns, not current coworkers, before I knew them well. And when they turned out to be creepy, I kept them on FB to keep an eye on them. Like to know that they're out of town and staying that way, for example. Update 3 days later. To recap my last submission, I posted an album of creepy texts I'd received from men in my field, computer engineering. Some from classmates and at Ada in college, some from people I met through internships and professional development activities, and some I know through my current job. I had been so fed up with the sense of shame and being silenced and not believed about sexual harassment. And for what it's worth, putting a large collection of harassing and threatening texts in the public eye, raw and unedited, made them difficult to ignore or explain away. After that post, I got a meeting invitation from my company's HR department for this Monday. A lot happened over the weekend. I did a lot of research into employment law. I read through the whole company handbook again, and for each person I mentioned in my social media posts, I wrote out a detailed account of their behavior towards me for my own reference, stuff that had not been said over text. I also screenshot and backed up any angry or threatening texts towards me that I received this weekend from the men whose old texts I'd posted online. I think it's worth giving some background on the 4 people included in my social media posts that I knew from my current job. A few months ago, I had reported the coworker Q to HR for sexual harassment in the past, and he was moved off my team to another position in the company where he would not have any contact with me. He had signed a paper saying that he must not contact me for any reason, whether that is work-related or not. I didn't sign anything during this process. The messages from him that I posted on Facebook were old texts from him to my personal phone, making a comment about how I looked nice at work and how I must have been dressing up for him. I'd replied that I was not. He asked me who I was dressing up for at work, if not him, because then he'd know who to be jealous of. I said myself, and told him to stop texting me on my personal phone. A few days later, he sent me a message telling me my new hair color was hot and asking me to drinks. That was a small snippet of creepy things he'd sent me. There was plenty more that I didn't post. I found out today that he was the one who showed HR my posts. As I understand it, he had assumed I had signed a similar no-contact agreement that he'd had too. I had not ever made that agreement, in writing or vocally. I'd just not been talking to him because I had no desire to. Coworker 2, he was married, and in the office, he didn't seem to do anything out of line. He had my number since I would be traveling for work, and wanted my team members to be able to contact me. We don't have work cell phones out of the blue. He texted me asking me to join him at a fancy seafood restaurant when I returned from my work trip. It sounded like a date. I texted back, you're married, and he said some shit about how nobody would have to know, and how I seemed like a girl who could keep a secret. I told him to fuck off. He was fired a week later for unrelated reasons, so while I'd been thinking about going to HR, I never did. I haven't heard from him since, even after my social media post. Coworker 3, he was also married. One time I was at a work happy hour and I left pretty early. He texted me on my work instant messaging platform, which I have on my phone, asking me to go party with him. I asked, "Is your wife coming?" and didn't get a response. I didn't think it was bad enough to report to HR as sexual harassment, because something usually has to be done repeatedly to qualify as harassment, unless it is something egregious. That was in the company handbook, in less concise words. That text exchange was included in my post. After my post, he sent me a slew of threatening texts. Apparently his wife had seen the post, and I had ruined his family. He said that I was about to get what was coming for me real soon, and to watch out, which sounded like a threat. Also called me a couple homophobic slurs. I'm openly bisexual. Coworker 4, he had just broken off an engagement. I didn't hear that from him, just through the rumor mill. He contacted me asking me if I wanted to go out, and I said that he wasn't really my type to date. He said that he wasn't looking for anything serious, just casual sex. I didn't reply for a few hours, and then he sent me a second text saying, "Well then go ahead and be a bitch and leave me on read, since it happened outside of work, and was not any kind or repeated harassment. I also didn't think that it would be reasonable to bring it to HR unless I saw a pattern of similar behavior." He didn't contact me again, even after my post. As for people from past jobs, internships, or classes, my college contacted me about my old TA who had tried to hook up with me repeatedly and stopped helping me with the course when it was clear he wasn't getting anywhere. They asked me if I'd give a statement. Apparently he was still doing that shit, and someone else had reported him, and they saw from my post that I'd likely have something to report too. A married guy who tried to get with me when I was an intern at another company sent me some really angry and threatening texts. I have to figure my Instagram post, with his public Instagram account tagged, caused problems in his marriage. I definitely have been taking extra steps to stay safe when I'm leaving my apartment or going anywhere. I'm considering reporting this to the police because it was the most overtly threatening thing I've received. A few other people I tagged sent me texts telling me how shitty it was not to keep private conversations private, etc. I ignored all those. As for what happened this morning, in my HR meeting, I was all ready to go in with metaphorical guns blazing, defend everything I'd said or done with sources from the company handbook, such as how I did not violate the company's social media policy, as it only prohibited pretending to speak for the company as a whole if PR is not your job, or reveal confidential code or design or business contracts online. I didn't mention my company in my post, or anywhere else on my social media. I was also ready to defend how I followed the guidelines of what is considered sexual harassment and should be reported. How I reported repeated harassment, but didn't report isolated incidents that were not extreme. The examples of extreme conduct included unwanted overtly sexual touching or threats of violence. The handbook specifically mentioned that asking someone out once was not harassment, but the meeting ended up being much more low-key than I had been expecting. I'd taken down both posts Sunday as an act of good faith, though I doubted that would matter much. When I went in, I sat down and asked if I could record the meeting. The HR representative, I'll call her Bate here, but that's not her real name of course, said okay. She wanted to talk about each of the specific people I'd posted screenshots from who work at the company. First was coworker 1. The guy I had previously reported to HR and who had been moved to a different team and told that he must not speak to me or contact me. Bate said that he had brought the posts to her attention, as he was under the impression that the no-contact agreement went both ways. I reminded her that I had not entered into a written or verbal agreement. I was surprised it was him who brought it up, but I didn't say anything. She asked if there had been continued harassment or contact from him after my initial report. I said no. She moved on to the next quickly. Coworker 2 had been fired a while back for unrelated reasons, but Bates still asked if there had been any further conflict between us while he was employed, other than the text messages. I said no. She asked me the same question about coworker 3. I told her that I had received texts from him on Saturday that came across as threatening and used several slurs about my sexuality. I gave her a printout of those messages. She read them and immediately stepped out to show them to her manager. She came back after a few minutes to continue talking with me. And again for coworker 4. I told her that he had not contacted me after he said I was a bitch for leaving him on red bait, asked me if I had any questions, and I basically asked what her next steps would be. She said that she would have asked me to remove the posts so that things could be handled with discretion. However, I had already removed both prior to the meeting. She also said that she would be meeting again with coworkers 1 and 4. She also said that due to coworker 3's threatening comments, he had been escorted out of the building while we had been speaking. Fired. Apparently he was already on record with them for another issue relating to his temper, and this was the last straw. She also asked me why I had not brought coworkers 2, 3, and 4 to her attention before. And I cited the section on harassment from the company handbook, saying that harassment was repeated unwanted comments or actions, and that a single event is not usually considered harassment unless it is extreme. The conversations with those 3 men had been isolated incidents. She asked me if I would be more comfortable taking a personal day for the rest of the day, while she speaks to coworkers 1 and 4. She said she wanted to make it clear that I was not being dismissed or escorted out. I was not getting fired. It was only a precaution so that I would not be around coworkers 1 and 4, in case either of them wanted to confront me personally. I said I would, so that's where I'm at right now. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. I was surprised it was him who brought it up. Some people are incapable of conceiving of themselves as being in the wrong. That guy probably viewed his harassment of you as a mutual work disagreement that you both got in trouble for. He thinks conditions must have been placed on you because conditions were placed on him. It is inconceivable to him that he was the aggressor and you were the victim. No, it doesn't make sense. Op response. Lol, you are very right in saying he saw it more as a mutual disagreement. Initially he tried to claim that I was harassing him back for using profanity towards him like fuck off and don't say that shit to me, commenter 2. I mean, how else would the company handle it? Woman posts proof of being harassed. The only reasonable response is to follow up and deal with the harassment. I'm sure they would have preferred you print out the texts and provide them to HR directly rather than blasting it on the internet, but that's really just a discretion thing. Op response. Some of the things I put online were things that did not qualify as harassment by their policy, so I didn't feel like I should have gone straight to them. I don't know, maybe they'll rethink what the threshold for something to qualify as harassment should be.